Today we're going to clean out the hot water tank. We have a well, and there's our pressure tank for the well. But we're going to clean out the hot water tank by draining it, taking out the bottom element, and using the shop vac to clean out the bottom and put it all back together. We start by turning off the electricity, of course, and then double checking that we turned off the electricity. Disable the alarm, and then we're going to hook a hose here, start draining the tank, and then we're going to leave the water on, let it push some of the sediment out through the hose, and then we're going to come up here and turn the water off on that red valve, the inlet to the hot water tank. Let it drain a little bit more to take the pressure off. Then we'll open the pop-off valve to give it some, so it doesn't create a vacuum and it drains better. Then once it's drained, we'll take out the bottom element, use that rubber hose and a coat hanger right there, push through the hose to stiffen the hose, and the shop vac to clean out the bottom element area at the bottom of the tank. If the element's good, we'll put it back. If the element's not good, we'll use one of the two spares we have up here just in case. So here we go. First, let's go turn the electric off. Here's the hot water circuit here. Runs on two 20 amp circuits. So we're gonna turn it off and start the process of hooking up the hose and draining. Garden hose into place and attach it. Make sure it gets a good seal. Here's the inlet water. Slowly turn it off. Well, the hose is nice and hot, so I know the water came out of it. But since I didn't pop off the pop-off valve, it's not coming out. So let's go do the pop-off valve. We should have one. So here's the pop-off valve. Open the pop-off valve. Pushing it up. Should lock into place. And now here comes the water. That's the important piece about making sure the pop-off valve is popped up, or the vacuum that's caused in the tank won't let it drain. So we'll let that. Okay, set that to the side. There should be some insulation right here. Set that to the side, keep it dry. And you'll see it's got a scalding hazard tag on it, but we're gonna document how this is hooked up. So again, there's your scalding tag. If you lift this up out of the way, there's your heating element. And we'll see that we just move those out of our way. And now I have a heating element that we can get to. I'll take a closer look here. There's our heating element. How I clean out the tank is a offshoot of how my dad taught me. He used an old curtain rod to scoop it out, but I'm going to use this tubing connected to my shop vac. After we take the bag out of the shop vac and take the filter out of shop vac, so that, because we're going to be sucking in some water and some nasty stuff we don't want in the bag, we don't want in the filter. But to help with the using this flexible tubing in the tank, because when you push it in there, it's going to want to bend on you. We're going to put a piece of a coat hanger in it. So we're going to run this through the tube to stiffen it slightly, and then we'll push that in there and scoop it around in there and suck out all the good stuff. You hear that sound? That means we're almost empty. As you can see now, the hose is barely running. If I pick it up here, it's just barely dribbling out. In fact, it's about ready to finish. So remember, the hose is going to be hot to the touch. The metal is, especially this rubber hose, definitely warm to the touch. So always be cautious of the hot water. We're going to take our 1/2-inch socket driver. We're going to, again, lefty loosey, righty tighty. So slide it on here. There we go. Now again, this may be hot coming out of here, so you don't want to touch it. The metal pieces, we'll hold it by the edges right here, and you see all the buildup on our element. You'll see here, this one's covered in sediment, not working very well. You see it's bowed in the middle from all the sediment. So we're going to replace this one with a new one. Actually, the bottom of the tank is not concave, but convex. It sort of humps in the middle and goes to the sides, so the water will drain to the sides of the tank and out the hose. Okay, now the element's out, let's see if we can see in here. Get my You can see down in there that see the sediment down in there. We're going to clean all that junk out. I've sucked quite a bit out, but what I like to do is I like to add just a little bit of water to the last final touches. So I've got the valve open at the bottom. I've sucked out a whole bunch of junk. The element is still out, so we gotta be careful when we do this. And the pop-up valve is still open. We're gonna let a little bit of water in here. So let's open this. That's it for a little bit. That's it. That's all I wanted right there. Just enough water. Online through Bradford Exchange is where I think I buy them from. That's what a new one looks like compared to one that's been in a hot water tank for some time and it has a lot of buildup on it. It was still working, just not efficiently, and I'm sure it was soon to fail at some point. Usually when these fail, the element here breaks in half and you can't, it doesn't work anymore. You get not as much hot water and the showers gets really cold really fast. So new element, nice and silvery, got the seals on it up here. So we're gonna use our little wire brush here and clean that out. Okay. Then we're gonna slide our element in. Again, when we took it out, it's going to turn, so it doesn't matter how it really goes in there, we're going to turn. So we're going to make sure we get it in there square and don't force it. You're going to have to hold some tension on it because the weight wants to take it on the back side. So finger tighten that, and then we'll take our special tool that we have with our 1/2-inch socket. And we'll screw it on there tightly, but not just, don't wrench it down on there. Tightly. And then we'll reattach our screws and add some water. But we'll go through those steps here in a second. So let me reattach the screws. At this point, I like to turn on the water, make sure the seal's good before we turn the electricity on. So I forgot to do that. So let's check the seal real quick. Okay, this is a key component to finishing this, making sure this pop-off valve is in the off position. You don't want it up like this. It's going to let water out and spill down into your pan and maybe overflow and cause flooding in your house. So what we're going to do is make sure it's closed. We're going to leave the pipe open. We're going to leave the hose open for a minute to flush some of the stuff out of the hose. So here we go. Let's open this up. So what we see here is this top element is a different color scheme. So make sure we document it, and we'll slide it out here in a second. Well, here's the top element. It's covered in gunk, and looks like we'll replace it as well. Okay, I started filling the tank back up. We're going to check for leaks here at the top and the bottom one. This is the top one. We'll check for leaks here. Again, we made sure the pop-off valve was off. We don't want water squirting all over the garage and then draining into the house. So the pop-off valve is off. We turned our water back on. Tank's filling up. And we're going to check for leaks. And the hose is turned off as well. So let's see what we got here. Okay, we have no leaks currently. Tank's filling up. One thing to watch for is water building up in the bottom of your pan here as you fill your tank. So while the tank's filling up, I'm gonna put the insulation back here and put the cover back on and do the same up here at the top. And we should be good to go here in a moment to turn the electricity back on, but I want to make sure the tank's full before I turn the electric on. Okay, the hot water tank's filled up. You can hear the water stopped running. I've buttoned up the top element. I've buttoned up the bottom element. I've removed the drain hose, which is in my other hand. We don't see any water building up in the bottom of the pan, so we're good there. So we'll take the hose outside in the shop vac and see what goodies we've got in. Oops, pulled my wheel off. Bucket. All that gunk is in the bottom of my tank. One thing I forgot to mention was that when you're filling the hot water tank, make sure you go inside and turn on a faucet so that the air that's inside the tank is pushed out and the water goes in. So again, we want to watch for the pan down here to get any water in it. We're going to replace our sensor for our, in case we do have a leak. We'll replace our sensor, make sure it's on properly. I'll do that here in a second when I got two hands. And we have hot water. Next step is to reorder the elements so that I have two on the shelf ready to rock and roll for the next time.